strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for kind of animal?
That was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in.
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the RoundTable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Program. I'd love, that sounds like a...
Old, I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows.
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now, and he ain't gonna fight. I bet you anything, he's not gonna fight somebody as good as John Ryder. Thanks to those joining me live, and to those that'll be joining me on the archive. You're tuning in to the 158th edition of the Round Table. We're being joined by Joe Habib from Ringside Reporter, as we do every week. We have the master of boxing on TikTok, the one only Hot Boxing Minute. How's it going, brother? And of course, Sasha from Women Fight News. Let's go ahead and get this one started. You know, we're doing the show on Wednesday because tomorrow is Thursday. It is Thanksgiving in the United States. I don't know if anyone else celebrates this holiday, but it is what it is. I do understand that this holiday is not celebrated by everybody here. I'm just going to put that out there. I get it. But it is a day or week to say, you know, what are we thankful for, right? Joe Beeb, what are you thankful for? Everyone's been negative about boxing all week, right? But what are we thankful for? What are you thankful for as a boxing fan, Joe Beeb?
Thankful for the RoundTable that I get to come on here every Wednesday or Thursday, whichever day it falls on, and I get to meet a lot of different people that talk about the sport as well from all over the world. Got people from other countries that come on here, so I'm very thankful to be able to talk to all the great people and boxing fans around the world.
All right, okay. And you're thankful for your co-host, right? I mean, you got to be.
Well, that goes without saying, man. I mean, I've known you since you were a baby. I used to change your diapers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Shout out to Nando Yamath. I appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving, boxing homies. Or Honey. Is that Honey's homie? Maybe you meant homies. Shout out to you. Happy Turkey Day to you as well. Shout out to MAW from Australia. Shout out to you, brother. Hope everything's good. Hot Boxing Minute. What are you thankful for in the year 2023 in terms of boxing? Is he frozen?
I think he's frozen. He's having some issues with his connection, I would assume.
He 100% is frozen. Okay, well, that is that. Sasha, talk to us. What are you thankful for?
You know what? I think it's been quite a good year for boxing. I think when you look through, obviously everyone likes to be quite negative, don't they? Social media is always my favorite for that. But you know, if I'm looking at like women's boxing, and we've just seen Amanda Serrano do 12 3-minute rounds at last. It's been a long time coming. So I'm going to be thankful for that, I think, and hopefully more of that in the future, I think.
Okay, all right. And I'll tell you what I am thankful for. It just happened recently, although I wasn't able to watch them here because for whatever reason they're not televised. But I am thankful for, two people actually. One of them is Navarrete. It is, I think he is a gem to the sport of boxing. I think he's exciting to watch. Every time out, he puts something out there. So this goes to everybody out there.
Feliz
Navarrete.
Feliz
Navarrete.
Feliz
Navarrete.
Prospero año y felicidad.
Feliz Navarrete to everybody out there, from my family to yours, but also all the action fighters out there that not all of them could be world champion, not all of them are elite fighters, but the fighters that go out there and put it on the line for our entertainment. at all levels. I am thankful for all the fighters. I think fighters do a lot for the sport. They put literally their lives on the line. This sport, unfortunately, has a lot of deaths every year. This is a very dangerous sport. So I'm definitely thankful to all the fighters. Shout out to MAW. He says, 5 for the live. I appreciate appreciation, fun, happy Thanksgiving. Subscribe, share, and smash that like button, folks. All right. Okay. Now, Sasha, this is not really related to any of this, but I saw you post this a couple weeks or months ago. I'm losing track of time. It is what it is. But I'm getting old. But I saw that you were accepted into the Boxing Writers Association of America.
Yes. So we've been asked to be like electors for an upcoming. Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Upcoming for 2024. So we've submitted our nominations. See who wins in the categories we got to vote for. But yeah, super exciting.
That is great, and congratulations. Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's great.
That's right. You see, I do show the people that elect Hall of Fame. Like, well, what do y'all do? What are y'all doing with your lives? You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, I'm just kidding.
Take it easy, kid, please.
Anyway, I gotta get clout somehow, babe. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and proceed here. I want to start with this Alycia Baumgardner story. So she released a statement. She said they did some hair follicle tests. She says, I'm good. There you go. There's my proof. As far as she's concerned, she's done with it. And she's told her team, time to get me a new opponent. I'm moving on. I'm putting this behind me. And I agree with her. We're not even going to talk about this topic. Let's go to the next topic and move on. No, that's not how it works. You don't get to, like, the defense doesn't get to tell the jury what's up and then just walk out of the courtroom. It doesn't work that way. So this is far from over. And let's get Hot Minute on here. What's going on, Hot Minute?
Technical difficulties. I'm linked up with my phone and the cell phone service on that one, so the Wi-Fi is acting up here. My apologies, everyone. Sorry.
For some reason, the intro on StreamYard does that to some phones. Sometimes I don't know why, but it is what it is. Should have probably warned you about that. But really quick, before we proceed, a minute, I was asking. It is Thanksgiving week, so what are you thankful for? Year 2023 boxing. In terms of boxing, what are you thankful for?
Ooh, this was the first year I actually started making money as a boxing content creator, and I was able to, I guess, in a way, subsidize my addiction on buying all the pay-per-views and trying to show up to as many events in person as possible. So I guess that was a blessing. I think as far as turning a corner collectively in the sport of boxing, we finally kind of sort of got what it is we want as boxing fans, really good matchups constantly and at a regular interval. I mean, you can sit there and gripe about us not getting Usyk and Fury all you want, or what, I don't know, Devin and Tank or whatever, but aside from a very small handful of fights, we got to see undefeated versus undefeated, undisputed versus undisputed, unified champions fighting other champions. So it seems like that great reset we've all been hoping for, or anybody with an analytical boxing mind knows that we had no choice. We're kind of at that point now where we're seeing a great reset. So I'm thankful for those things in boxing, and I'm very, very optimistic about where boxing is going and where my place in it as a member of the media.
For sure. All right. So I was segueing to Alycia Baumgardner. She said that she proclaimed herself innocent. They did a hair follicle. It's a wrap. That's it. She's done. All right. We're moving on, she said. Right. So I guess we're moving on. Right, Hot Minute? Get us started with that. What's going on with that, Jeff?
Oh, Lord. Let me tell you this. In 2014, I graduated from UCSD with a degree in chemical engineering with an emphasis on nanoscience and technology. I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry since 2014. I'm a senior engineer in the pharmaceutical industry. For what that's worth, oddly enough, I'm somewhat of an SME in the field of scientific studies and what goes on in laboratory practices. And I'm not going to speak on any convicting tones or anything because I'm flabbergasted and in awe of the whole situation. But let me say this. that company that did her testing request, which I don't remember off the top of my head, is based out in Utah. It is an ISO accredited organization, which is the International Standardization Organization, and essentially it is a licensing company. If a company does not have an ISO license, it's pretty much trash and you can't trust it for anything. Now, an ISO is not like a Food and Drug Administration license here in the States, which takes millions of dollars in research and clinical testing. There is an equivalent organization out there in the European Union. I'm not sure what it's called, but the ISO is international. They issue you a license, and every year they have auditors come in, and every single one of your practices has to be transparent. Every single step, verifiable and transparent through your process of your lab practices, how you do what it is you do. I have interned in places that did take biological samples from people. So in effect, to say that there was some kind of discrepancy in the chain of order in which these activities are done to collect the samples when they were brought to the lab, there is total transparency. They wouldn't have an ISO license without it. These ISO licenses, like I said, every year they have people with PhDs far above my education level who make sure that these companies are upholding this ISO standard. If there was a discrepancy or a mishandling on the operator part that either took the sample or in the laboratory that processed the sample, it would have been traceable. The company would have found the person, it would have taken accountability for it, and either, did some kind of disciplinary action. Nothing probably too major, but at least the company would have owned up to it. Alycia Baumgardner, this isn't Michael Jordan here. We're not talking about a huge superstar. She's a niche fighter in a very niche sport. So there's no targeting of her. She's not some target of some great conspiracy. If the company messed up on their end, they would have looked through all their records and transparency. They would have got everybody here and say, hey, we've got some kind of disagreement here on the other end. They would have been able to find where the chain of command got broken. And what the public relations team and the legal team on her end are doing is they are preying upon the boxing public's ignorance. Just to begin with, like Roger Mayweather said, most boxing fans DK SAB, and that's just fact. Even less of them really understand what goes on inside clinical laboratories in the STEM majors and the STEM fields like the ones I work at. So they're definitely preying upon the boxing public's extraordinary lack of intelligence and education on what goes on behind closed doors. And that's as much as I'll say on that one.
Man, half of the chat right now is like, yeah, what he said. But
I'm just saying, like, to attack the establishment is a very phenomenal approach, and it's fascinating. I'm watching it all like, whoa. I believe that the truth shall set you free, and sooner or later we'll find out the truth.
Okay.
Whatever the truth is. If y'all ever want to hit me up behind closed doors at a personal event or, I wouldn't hesitate to let you know exactly what I think. But to claim that there was some kind of discrepancy on the lab's end is so far-fetched and so damn near impossible, especially for that International Standardization Organization, that ISO stamp. That ain't easy to get one of those. And you have to have transparent business practices in every single step of your process, period. You just do. It's not like you're some bumbling idiot taking a sample. These are well-trained people. They've either gone to secondary school or college education in order to be able to do what it is they do for a living.
Sasha, you could follow that up.
That's going to be hard to top, that one, isn't it? But
Well, what are your thoughts?
I think the timing was really interesting. I know I'd had a lot of people message me, and I had some kind of emails and things like that from, there was rumors that she was going to be stripped of the WBC. There was rumors that there's an issue with her kind of releasing more information and her working with the governing bodies. So I think the timing was really interesting of when it come out. But I'm not a fan of, I've done this on my own back, so now I'm innocent. I declare the matter resolved. I don't think that can fly, really, because anyone can do that. And again, with her saying, urine samples aren't legit. I mean, these are used across sports, all sports. So they were legit enough for her to sign up and want to take VADA testing or whatever other testing she's taken, and then it's come back that she's positive and now she doesn't agree with the process. I just don't think that's how it can work, really. But I think there's a big issue. I think boxing in general needs a little bit more consistency. It'd be nice if across the whole sport it was just one body that was testing, because obviously we've had that issue before with like Conor Ben as well. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I know she said that she wants to fight. I'm pretty sure she can't fight at the minute. I know she said she wants to go into an undisputed fight, but again, I'm not convinced she's going to have all the belts in the future. So it will be interesting to see. But then it's equally, she does deserve the opportunity to try and, you know, prove her innocence if she is. And if there's no way to do that at the minute, then I suppose this is the angle that she's went down. But I think there's just a bigger issue within the sport that needs addressing, really.
Your microphone's muted. Your microphone's muted.
My bad. All right. So look, Joe, I want your thoughts on that in general, but I want to start with this. So a couple years ago, Canelo tested positive, right, for another drug, but nonetheless. And then he did the whole hair follicle thing, right? Provided receipts about where he got the contaminated meat, etc. There was ties that, I get that, but now Alycia Baumgardner is doing something similar. It's on the surface, it looks very similar, right? And is this the start of a new precedent? Like now fighters will just do a hair follicle test. I'm innocent. Peace out. Now I'm hearing things from people and I don't even know what to do with it. Like it's above my pay grade. I don't know anything about this shit, right? But I'm hearing things like the length of the hair wasn't long enough. It should have been a longer piece. I don't even know what that matters. I don't know anything about that, but maybe Jeff knows. I don't know. But I'm hearing a lot of things. But is this like if she could, like if they accept this, right? Then what's stopping other fighters from doing it? And furthermore, why not just do a hair follicle test? Why bother peeing on cups and taking blood out if the hair follicle test is the end all be all?
Yeah, there's people that say the hair follicle test is accurate. Others say it's not. There's a lot of variables with the hair follicle test. I've heard that they said people that have darker hair, it's harder to trace than when people have lighter hair. And then if you take a hair from the body as opposed to the head, I've heard a lot of different things. So I'm not 100% sold on that. I'm not sure. So, but one thing we do know for sure, as Jeff said, the blood in the urine, and I think Sasha alluded to it as well, the blood and the urine are tried and true. I mean, when we go to doctors and we have to get specific tests done, we get blood and urine. And I've been getting blood and urine tests since I was, a baby, right? Child. So here's the problem. And you made a comparison to Canelo. Canelo never said that it was VADA's fault. It was the BCO or the DCO's fault. The collectors who did it. He never. All Canelo's stance was he never knowingly took this substance, clenbuterol, and the amount that was in his system was consistent with contaminated meat. And we can go through the whole issues with the Mexican soccer team and all the other athletes. I mean, when you have micrograms of something in your system, especially something like clenbuterol, that has like a decent shelf life in it, half life, I should say, so I think his case is definitely totally different. She didn't have trace amounts of either substance in her. I mean, it just said she tested positive for these substances, and a lot of times when someone does test positive for trace amounts of something, the results will say, hey, there was trace amounts found, and again, I'm not trying to run defense for fighters, but more often than not, when there is trace amounts of something, it's either from like food or a contaminated supplement. That's very common when you have such small amounts in your system. The whole microdosing thing is bullshit, because you would have to like play a game of Russian roulette to try to take a substance and narrow it down. Well, it's going to be this much when I get to. It's virtually impossible to do that. It really is. So that's why I don't think the two incidents are similar. You can't adjudicate yourself. You know what I mean? You can't do that. You get a traffic ticket, or you get in an accident, and you record yourself, and you're recording your dashboard, and it says you went 55, but the gun says you went 57. You can't say, okay, well, I got a picture that says I went 55, so I'm not going to show up for my court summons today. I already got the evidence. I'm innocent. You can't do that. You can't adjudicate yourself. That's number one. Number two, I think Sasha also made a great point with you have all these different agencies and all these organizations that do the drug testing, so there's no uniformity. I think the way the UFC did it when they had USADA, because USADA would handle the adjudication. USADA also had a research team. They also, were they were linked up with law enforcement. So, if there was an issue with the Victor Conte situation, USADA works with law enforcement agencies so they can do research and figure out where stuff came from, where things were bought, and things of that nature. But when you have these third-party tested agencies that really can't adjudicate, and you have the commission has to make a decision. Well, do we want to honor what this third-party organization is saying? In the case with the phentermine, VADA has that pass or fail thing with the stimulants, and WADA doesn't have that same standard, right? So you have to have one set of standards across the board, and the commission has to accept, or I would even go as far as saying the testing organization should adjudicate, and they should hand down the suspension, and it would be up to the commission to honor that. Like it's the same thing with the UFC. When they on their website, USADA, you could go down and it would tell you how many tests each athlete had throughout the course of the year. They showed you what they tested positive for if they did test positive, and they also showed you what the punishment was, right? And that it was that cut and dry. So if you're really going to be serious about drug testing, you should just have one organization. You should make a decision. We're going to follow the WADA protocol, right? Because what VADA has their own specific standards that don't line up with WADA. So when you have all these different standards, then you have room for loopholes. So you just need one testing organization that follows the WADA protocol, and I believe the testing organization should do the adjudication. They should do the research. They should investigate any issues that the fighter may have. If they say, well, I didn't knowingly take this, okay, then show me your supplement list, right? If it's a clenbuterol situation, if you can, tell me what you ate in the last month, whatever, what restaurant you went to, and it needs to be handled that way. But right now we have the wild west. They can hire drug-free sport. They can have VADA do the testing. It's crazy. I think there's a couple other ones out there too that some sports use. So unless you get consistency, then this is always going to be a joke, and fighters are going to be able to get off on technicalities, if you want to call it that, or if you just want to call, someone may interpret something a different way, and someone else may interpret something another way. So, but one thing is certain: the fighter can't adjudicate themselves, which it seems she's trying to do.
Now, the drug-free sport, which you mentioned, they do the testing. I just want to remind everybody that when she first tested positive, for some reason, people are questioning this organization, but they do testing for the NCAA, the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, the PGA, NASCAR, okay, the CrossFit Games, okay, for horse racing. They don't sound like they're rinky-dink to me, but go ahead, babe.
I've always said this, and other people have said this. Memo Heredia has said this. Victor Conte won't say it, but he knows the truth. It really doesn't matter who the organization is, because everybody uses a WADA accredited lab. So these organizations aren't catching people. The labs are catching people. It's so, unless you want to accuse, and even drug-free sport and VADA, they have their own collectors, right? They hire collectors. They hire collectors, outside collectors. And as Jeff said, these are licensed BCOs and DCOs, right? They're licensed. They have to be licensed in order to do that. So if they're playing with the sample, like if you're gonna go that much into a conspiracy theory, like, oh well, the person who collected my sample, they didn't handle it right. The container they used was contaminated. Blah blah blah. They bring the container right there with, it's wrapped in a plastic bag container. It's sealed. They open it up, and there's a tape around the bottle, the lid around the lid. They rip it off, and you know what you're peeing in, right? So it's tough if you're gonna sit there and criticize the BCO and the DCO and accuse them of either being incompetent or something nefarious. It's just out of control. But the WADA accredited labs, there's one in the United States, there's one in UCLA, and there's one in I believe Utah. And that's a problem too. There's only 2 WADA accredited labs. That's number one. And number two, you're testing for so many different substances. So that's why a lot of times these tests come back late, because you're doing a large panel of drugs that they're testing for. So it's not like you just go to the doctor and you get a metabolic panel where they're doing your glucose, your cholesterol. That comes back in like a day. This is something different, So
let's for sure. Calix, give us your quick thoughts on this Alycia Baumgardner situation. She declared herself innocent. So what are your thoughts?
I don't have any. I think y'all already know my broad opinion on all this at this point. Is it's too complex for a boxing fan. I'm a boxing fan. If I was a journalist, then I would pretend to care about this, but because it's my job, I get paid for it. But as a boxing fan, I have yet to, for a journalist or a power broker or a fighter to tell me why I should care about this. And they'll say things like, for fighter safety. Okay, but you have to make it clearer for us that this thing is getting us closer to fighter safety if you want to sell us that. And it's not, because the same thing happens every time. Is a fighter gets caught, they try to self-adjudicate themselves or go to a different body to get it swept under the rug or something of that nature. And then it goes to the courts, right? Or they have to do some sort of settlement because it gets too expensive to defend yourself, right? So there's going to be some sort of settlement here. She's going to be allowed to fight at some point. So I'm just tired of this whole charade that I have to care about this and follow it point by point by point. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't. Like, it is what it is. You have to give me more credibility before I start to take you seriously on stuff like this. I just don't.
One quick point, not to belabor the point, and I've said this before, and I hate to sound like a broken record. I hate the safety argument, because the same people that call for fighter safety, they're the same people that want to see guys continue when they got broken orbital bones, and they want to call fighters quitters, and you have these gross mismatches where you have a fighter that's levels and levels above another fighter, and you see that, and you just see one guy just pummel another guy that doesn't even belong in the same ring with them, but yet the fight is sanctioned. If you really cared about safety, there's so many other things that, in my opinion, are so much more dangerous than having someone taking phetamine,
mismatches.
Yeah, mismatches. That's what I said. Mismatches and poor stoppages and even trainers. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Breadman and Edwards, when Caleb Plant was getting beaten up badly, he had the towel in his hand. Why didn't you stop that? You had another fighter in a similar situation with David Benavidez 4 months before, and you got up in the ring apron, you stopped the fight. Okay, Caleb Plant finished the fight on his feet, great, but he was getting beat from pillar to post. Who knows what the residual effect is going to be down the road because you didn't stop that fight in the 9th round. I would have stopped that fight in the 9th round.
He didn't stop it because he had beef with.
He had beef with the other. Again, it's exactly what I said. He had beef with the other trainer, so he didn't want to give him the satisfaction of saying, "Hey, my guy, stop your guy."
And just quickly piggyback off of that, Beeb, is I wish we could multitask on everything. I would love that. I would love to have a clean sport and all that stuff. But in reality, there are things more detrimental to fighter safety than what people are focused on. And one of them, the big one that we've talked about, is mismatches, right? It's a huge problem, and it's very detrimental to B-side fighters. But D-Style and I have talked about this, is people, when they think about fighter safety and when they talk about it, they're talking about the safety of the A-side fighter, not the B-side fighter, because they don't care about the B-side fighter. They don't care about the B-side fighter going in there and being fed as a bait dog to a guy coming up, 20-1 underdog, 30-1 underdog. I don't hear anything about any of that. But what they focus on, and what the drug testing,
so make a point quick.
Yeah, my last point was, I think this system may be worse for the B-side fighter too, because they don't have the money to use all the supplements, the clears to get around the drug testing that I think the A-side fighters do.
That last point, Calix, I don't even think it's as cut and dry as A-side, B-side. I think it's people only care about when their favorite fighter gets busted, and if someone else that's not their favorite fighter doesn't get busted, then that's where the double standards come in. I'm sorry, D-Star, go ahead.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're right. A lot of people pick and choose. It is what it is, but we'll see what happens. As far as this specific situation, it's far from over from what I understand, from what I've been told. It's far from over. So it is what it is. But let's go ahead and proceed. We got some big fights this weekend. Chantelle Cameron, the undisputed 140-pound champion of the world, will be facing Katie Taylor. Once again, she did get the win the first time. They will be returning to Ireland. And will it be repeat or revenge? Sasha, to start with you.
Repeat. I think I've upset quite a few people on Twitter today with my comment of, I just don't know what Katie Taylor can do differently. I think Chantelle Cameron can do everything better than Katie Taylor. And I know some people were like, yeah, but Katie Taylor 3 years ago could do X, Y, and Z. But obviously, we're not 3 years ago. We're going to be here on Saturday night. And there's just nothing, in my opinion, that Katie Taylor can do different. I think we get the same version of Katie every fight, which is great because she's Katie Taylor. She's dominated the sport. She's rightfully been pound for pound number one, arguably for years. But she's just met her match now in Chantelle Cameron, who can, I think, match her in hand speed, but she's got the added power. I think Katie's slowing down on the feet, which we saw in the first fight. I think Chantelle was able to bully her a little bit, push her back on the ropes, where I think she was able to unleash some big shots. I just don't know what Katie Taylor can do. And again, even today, if you've seen the public workout, I thought, it's hard to say with a public workout, but again, we're seeing similar from Katie Taylor, where she's going for them hooks to the body, but she couldn't pull them off in the first fight. I thought Chantelle was too quick, used the jab efficiently. And I think Chantelle's hungrier as well. Even though she's won that first fight, she's waited years for that fight. She was due that fight years ago when she was mandatory to fight Katie Taylor, and she spent years being avoided. And every single fight, you'd hear Eddie Hearn say, oh, Chantelle gets through this one, then we'll look at the big fight, and then we'll look at it, and then we'll look at it. If Amanda Serrano hadn't pulled out of the Katie Taylor fight, Chantelle Cameron still wouldn't have had that opportunity. She finally got it. She's won, which I was convinced she would. I think now she's going to be hungrier to prove that she is the best, obviously with Clarissa Shields as well, but at that weight, she is better than Katie Taylor. She's probably deserved a lot more than what she's got in the sport. So I think this is a big opportunity for Chantelle Cameron to really, stamp her place and start creating her own legacy now.
All right. Calix, very rarely does someone get beat and come back and win the rematch. Usually it's the same thing, but, at the end of the day, this is Katie's shot. What do you think? How do you see this fight?
I agree. I think the adjustments that need to be made are tough because I actually thought Katie Taylor fought a good fight and still lost. I didn't think she fought a bad fight. It was actually sort of a tough fight to judge in spots because the 2-minute rounds already make it tougher, right? But it was tough because Katie Taylor's landing about the same amount of shots, but it was the effective punching. It was just, you can tell the difference in how they were reacting to the punches. Katie Taylor was not reacting as well to the punches as Chantelle was. So I think the adjustments that need to be made are going to be tough to make. But here's what I'll say. If Katie Taylor truly is one of the GOATs, this is something that's doable, right? Because we see fighters like that, special fighters, can do things that you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And this could be one of those fights for Katie Taylor here. I just think that it's going to be tough for her to deal. You just saw the difference in punching power. And on top of that, as Sasha just said, she actually beat her to the punch as well. She was actually faster in spots, faster feet. So this is going to be a tough fight for Katie Taylor. Props to Chantelle for going back out there for this fight to Ireland. Props to her for that, because that's where this fight belongs. I think that's what maximizes the amount of eyes on it. But I think same result, close decision, Chantelle.
Hot boxing minute. How do you see this one, brother?
Woo. Well, I had Chantelle in the first time around. She's bigger, she's younger, she's stronger. You know, Katie Taylor is Katie Taylor. What can you say? She's a pioneer in the field, but it's Chantelle Cameron's time. She just, even technically speaking, she brings, I wouldn't say she's better than Katie Taylor, but she's got an equivalent set of her own tools that she brings to great, she's just good. Great jab, can fight on that back foot. She's aggressive as hell. Katie Taylor, what her strongest assets are that output, that motor, in addition to her obviously boxing skills and her deep amateur pedigree. But, you know, it's that age, it's that time. She's been in one too many wars, and I think it's going to be a full, it's going to go the distance, but I think it's going to be a lot more decisive this time that Chantelle Cameron is the victor. And I just think Katie Taylor's, she's at that point now where she's reached her pinnacle, and it welcome to Father Time. No fighter beats that. So Chantelle Cameron by clear decision.
Joe, Katie Taylor lives like just a couple miles from you. You got to back up, like she's from where you live.
Connecticut, a couple hours, man.
But it's like right around the corner. I mean, you got to support.
When I go up there, man, I got to gas up the vehicle, man. When I go up there every now and then.
Yeah, but
it's a 3-hour drive.
How do you see this fight, Joe?
I'm in the minority, and I'm in a very, very small minority because everyone's going the other way here. I'll be honest with you. I thought both women fought an outstanding fight the first time. I thought this was one of the best fights I've seen. I'll be honest with you. This is my type of fight. This was ebb and flow, back and forth. No one really took control. In the first half of the fight, I gave Chantelle 3 of the first 5. In the second half, I actually thought Katie stormed back and won 3 of the last 5. I had this fight a dead draw. And most people that say Cameron won, they had it 96-9. They had it 6 rounds to 4. So I respect everyone's opinion, and I'm not here to criticize anyone's opinion. But it was such a close fight the first time around. I'm surprised that everyone just thinks that Katie has no shot in the rematch. I'll tell you what I saw. I think Chantelle has the quicker hands, but I think the foot speed is pretty comparable. Katie's pretty quick on her feet, and that's where I think saved her in the Serrano fight, because when she decided she had to create a little bit of space and get out of that mid-range and box from the outside and kind of circle the perimeter a little bit and have Serrano walk into some of those shots, I thought she had success. But Katie does whatever she needs to do to win. In this fight, she did the exact opposite. She tried to fight Chantelle on the outside in the beginning and box her. But when there's space, Chantelle's hands are too quick. So what do you have to do? You have to smother the speed. And in the second half, if you notice, she started fighting on the inside, collapsing the pocket, getting a little gritty, getting a little physical, right? Now you can argue, this is what I would argue. Chantelle's got a little bit more pop on her shots, without question. So Calix is right. When she was turning those shots over from the outside, right, she was getting more of a reaction from Katie. But if you go and you watch the second half of the fight, Katie got in there and she said, you know what, I can't box this girl. I gotta fight a rough and tumble fight. I gotta get in there. And I thought she was doing well on the inside. I thought she was landing good body shots towards the end of this fight in the later rounds. I thought she was landing the short shots up close, the hook. I thought she gritted it out. I thought she made the adjustment. Now, one can argue maybe the adjustment was made too late. Maybe someone can say, oh, I had her losing 4 of the first 5. Oh, that's fine, whatever. But I thought it was razor close. Katie knows how to win. She knows how to make adjustments. She's got experience. And Chantelle's an excellent fighter. But I just think if Katie fights this fight on the inside and doesn't give Chantelle room to turn those shots over and get that space that she likes, I do think Katie's a tad bit better on the inside than Chantelle. And that's not to say Chantelle's not capable on the inside. I just think Katie up close is a little bit better. And this it's a direct opposite of what she did in the second Pursoon fight, because what hurt her in the first Pursoon fight was she wanted to get in there and grind it out with her up close. And I actually thought she lost the first Pursoon fight, even though it was close. I still thought she lost it because she tried to get in the pocket with her and grind it out. Second fight, what did she do? She did what she did in the Serrano fight, boxed her from the outside, gave her space, and made it more of a boxing match, a perimeter match. I think in the first fight, because she was at home, she wanted to make a statement, she had some adrenaline going there, I thought she tried to box a little bit and try to beat Chantelle at her own game, right, and show her that I'm the superior boxer here. But no, she has to grind this one out. She has to grind this one out. She has to get up close. She has to make it rough, and she has to make it physical, like I think she did in the second half. And she has to fight majority of the fight that way. And I think she can eke out a decision. I'm actually going with her to eke out a decision this time around. I think she'll make the adjustment. And the reason why I say that is I saw the momentum going in her favor in the second half of this fight. She got off to a slow start, but I thought she made up for it in the second half of the fight.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm gonna go with Chantelle Cameron. I hope. Look, I'm a big fan of Katie Taylor, always have been, right? But I just think sometimes somebody just has your number, right? And I think she has Katie Taylor's number, and I think it could be a closer fight, but it could also be a more one-sided fight. And I think I'm going to lean towards the side that is more likely. And I think, in my opinion anyway, I could be wrong, I think Chantelle Cameron should win this fight, and we'll move on from there. I don't know if that means that's it for Katie. I mean, it could just be
well,
a
it's
style
not
thing.
Katie's natural weight, is it? So you're always going to have that argument of Katie's fought this at 140. It's not her natural weight. The Amanda Serrano fight will be there at 135, regardless of this one. So I don't think she's got that much to lose. I actually still think Chantelle's got more to lose. Because
You don't think Katie could go like to 147?
No, I think she's said a lot of times that she'd never move up from 140.
Okay.
Because I think what she says is the weight she walks around is so close to 140 that I think she'd just feel quite uncomfortable. And I think that's part of the issue that she has at 140 against Chantelle, and she might have been better looking for the 135 fight against Chantelle, but she didn't want it. That Chantelle's just naturally bigger than her, and she can just bully her and push her around a little bit. So I think she would have had more of a chance at her own natural weight, really.
Yeah, go back to lightweight. It is what it is. So that is that. She has options there, but I know. I just don't think this is a case of Katie. I mean, I'm not saying she hasn't slowed down, but I think this is more of a styles thing. And I think Chantelle just has her number. So I see otherwise, quite frankly. Let's go ahead and talk about the other fight this weekend. Now, this is going to be the main event on Showtime pay-per-view. I'm not too thrilled that it's pay-per-view, but it is. Demetrius Andrade will be challenging David Benavidez for his WBC interim title. Can Andrade, however he wants to pronounce it, can he pull off the upset against El Bandera Roja, against the Mexican monster? Let's start with you, Hot Boxing Minute. Talk to us.
I like this fight a lot. I don't like that it's pay-per-view at all. I've always liked Demetrius Andrade, whether or not the press has not liked him or boxing media in general. He definitely is one of those avoided fighters, and not even because, per se he's a monster, but he just has good feet. He's unorthodox with his approach. He's a southpaw, deep amateur pedigree. He won the world championship in 2007 as an amateur. After that, America didn't sniff gold at the world championships until what's his name last year, forgetting his name, Jamal Harvey. So that speaks to the pedigree of where he comes from, him and Raushi Warren. This was years ago. And, he was with Matchroom, and Eddie had a hard time matching him up. And it's crazy to think that he had to wait this late in his career to finally get the big fight that he wants. A lot of fighters didn't want him. He should have fought Charlo a while ago. He should have fought Canelo a while ago. And for whatever reason, whatever narrative or sales pitch you want to believe as to why those fights didn't happen. And it's tricky because you're watching footage on both of them. I'm trying to study and ascertain what I think about both of them. And what do I have to work with? David Benavidez and Caleb Plant, David Lemieux, Kyron Davis, and Ronald Ellis. And there isn't much there on the other end with Demetrius Andrade. Like his toughest fight was what? Cool K? That was the last person to really test him. Most of the time he's rinsing guys 9-1, 11-1 or whatever. 12-0 or 10-0 in the case of his last fight against Damon Nicholson. And I just, David Benavidez is an offensive monster with extraordinary technical flaws that I'm just waiting for someone to capitalize on it. And I think a younger version of Demetrius Andrade would have swallowed David Benavidez whole. But 168, this is only his second fight at 168 for Demetrius Andrade. And I think a Demetrius Andrade, 30, 31 years old, would have been able to use his unorthodox footwork. He has kind of shown that he'll start off super red hot, even maybe get a knockdown, and then just kind of coast at the end and maybe let his foot off the gas pedal. Maybe that's because he feels comfortable in the points that he gets, or maybe his just cardio just kind of gets tired, But I think overall, as far as sheer physical tools, Demetrius Andrade is a more athletic person with better reflexes and better balance, better footwork, all of it. But David Benavidez, he's got that come forward style, 80% of his body weight on his front foot, and nobody's been able to have an answer for that volume. And I can't not see it any other way other than Demetrius Andrade have an extraordinary, good early half of that fight, and then slowly but surely getting broken down in the second half of that fight, and David Benavidez winning by decision. That's what I think is going to happen. But I think a younger Demetrius Andrade would have ran circles around Benavidez, but this is not the younger boo-boo, so I'm going David Benavidez by decision.
Okay. Joe, what do you think? Is this a possible banana skin here?
I don't think so. Demetrius Andrade is a cagey guy, but here's the thing. He's always been significantly quicker than just about every guy he's been in there with. I can't think of one fighter he's been in there with that was even remotely as quick as him. But guess what? I believe he's going to be in there with someone who is actually quicker than him, of both foot and hand, right? In David Benavidez. And I've said this about David Benavidez. I've always been high on David Benavidez, the way he fights. I think he's got a very heavy-handed jab. I think he's dangerous from the outside, from the mid-range, as well as up close. I think he's a versatile guy. I love the way he has that high guard. He keeps those hands up high in front of his face, and he just walks you down. And while he's walking you down, he's picking shots off. He's picking shot off and firing it. As soon as he picks, boom, boom, firing shots, catching and shooting as he's moving forward. And I think that's difficult for people to deal with that, because when they're throwing punches, they're not used to hit the transition from defense to offense so quickly. And I think his timing is very underrated. The way he has his hands, he just picks shots, just makes subtle moves to just turn his body to protect himself from body shots as well as head shots. He's got a hard defense to penetrate, whereas Demetrius Andrade has that wide stance. Sometimes he reaches in with those shots. He likes to counterpunch a little bit, but he's going to have a hard time dealing with the guy who's going to just collapse the pocket on him. He's going to keep moving forward, and you're going to be throwing shots that are being blocked. And as they're being blocked, he's turning his shot right off the block, and he's going to be in there with like a tsunami, in my opinion. I just think that it's going to be too much for him. I don't think the level of opposition that he's had throughout the course of his career has prepared him for someone like David Benavidez, and I think that's the biggest red flag of all. Jeff made a point, and I'm not going to say he's wrong if he believes that. He believes that, but the problem I have with that is we never really know how good Demetrius Andrade is or could have been, because he never really had a breakthrough fight, right? where you can criticize David Benavidez's resume, but I think Caleb Plant's a very solid guy. I would even argue, and a lot of people disagree with me, I would even argue Caleb Plant is a more talented fighter than Demetrius Andrade, in my opinion. A lot of people scoff at that. I would at least argue he's just as good, at least at 168. So yeah, I think David is going to get a 10th round stoppage here, and the reason why I say that is because I think, like I said, Andre does tend to lean in, and I think he could lean into something and magnify the power of David's shot. And I think he's gonna get stopped in 10 rounds here. I believe that.
Yeah, look, before I go to Calix, Benavidez is 26 years old. Like he's not that old. Like he's a young guy. Andrade is 35. He's about to be 36 years old soon. This guy is old, bro. All right? Like for a boxer, right? Like, and he hasn't fought anybody. Now, Jeff, I hear you about he's never had the opportunities, but I disagree. He was offered a Jermell fight. He turned it down, right? He bragged about, I'm glad I didn't take it because now it could be a bigger fight. That's what he told Joe Habib in an interview like 2 years ago, right? That was 2 years ago, right? So the Parker fight was there. He didn't take it, right? Like he allowed John Ryder to take that fight, and John Ryder became the mandatory to Canelo. He could have become the mandatory.
That was about the time where I stopped defending him when he turned down the Parker fight.
Yeah,
I've heard different stories about what happened with him and the Charlos as far as getting a fight with them, but right when the Parker fight fell apart, I was like, okay, I can't defend him anymore. It is what it is.
And people are like, well, who's John Ryder? Why is he fighting? Well, John Ryder became the mandatory. That's why he fought Canelo. That could have been you. That could have been Andrade.
Yeah, this is true.
So it just is what it is. But Calix, what do you think? At the very least, it's a close fight with the odds, at least, right?
Yeah. So 2 wild cards, and I'm in agreement with Jeff with it's really difficult to pin these two guys down as far as who they actually are because of the resumes, right? Or their lack thereof. So Benavidez has seen a closer version of Andrade than Andrade has seen of Benavidez, right? Because there's a big step up for Andrade from what he's seen in the past. Plant is a closer version, right? But like when you look at Caleb Plant, it's like, okay, that's not Plant and Andrade. That's about the same level to me. The other wild card here is the weight, because people focus on the negative of Andrade moving up, but there's positives of that, right? As he's not going to be drained. I think he'll actually be fresher. Whereas Benavidez, he's busting at the seams at 168 from what I heard, and he looks like a cruiserweight in training camps. How many times can he go back down to that well of super middleweight to take advantage of his size, right? But there comes a point when, like Errol Spence at 147, where it starts to backfire on you, right? And you become sort of a shell of yourself in the ring because you go to that well too many times. So focus on that too. Let's see if Benavidez looks fresh in this fight. But stylistically, I love the fight because the positive of it is, let's see if Benavidez can deal with the guy with lateral movement, who can fight off the back foot, who can use his jab, right? And then let's see what Andre can do with that pressure fighter, right? But the negative of this is, my fear is this can become such a stinker of a fight. And what I mean by that is, Andre, it wouldn't be surprising if Andre has success early, right? Just like we saw with Tszyu against Navarrete.
True.
But what happens when Navarrete has that 4th round and we expect Tszyu to go away, but then the opposite happens, and we're like, holy crap. So even if Tszyu loses that fight, we're still intrigued by Tszyu going forward. Give him another title shot because we're entertained. My fear is when Andre finds himself in that moment where Benavidez starts coming downhill, right? Because Beeb and I talked about this after the Caleb Plant fight, is my concern for Benavidez going forward is his output came down significantly against Caleb Plant, particularly early in that fight. He had a little trouble cracking that code of Caleb Plant, and I think the same thing can happen here with Benavidez. So it'll be fun to see Benavidez in this fight because we'll start to answer those questions. Does his output come down against better fighters? Or was that just a one-off? Is Caleb Plant just better than everybody says? But I want to see how Andrade reacts when he starts getting hit, because it will happen. 4th, 5th, 6th round, Andrade's going to start, or Benavidez is going to start coming downhill. And my concern is Andrade starts to look for a way out or starts clinching a lot, makes this a very negative fight. I want to see either a Benavidez stoppage or Andrade do something that we didn't expect, like fight a great fight. Because if this is a Benavidez wide decision and a stinker of a fight, then neither one of their stocks rise, and we don't need that.
Yeah. Sasha, first of all, are you going to stay up for this fight? That's number one.
No.
Okay. And but
it's too late for me.
But you stayed up for the roundtable, though. You know what I mean? Hey, but talk to us. How do you see this matchup on Saturday?
I'm not overly excited for it, to be honest. I think it's. I know. Sorry, Joe. I'm just not. I think it's
so like Frank Smith. Remember Frank Smith was being interviewed. He goes, I haven't really thought about this fight. It was funny.
But no, I'm not overly looking forward to it. I think it's a little bit too late for Andrade, and I think he's got too much going against him now. I think age is an issue. Like, we've said prior, age doesn't wait for anyone. I do think that is going to play an issue. But for me, it's his level of opponents. It's not being good enough. So, yeah, there's just, I don't know, there's just too much going against him. And I do think it can turn into quite a negative fight quite quickly. I do hope I'm wrong, especially with it being a pay-per-view. There is a lot more pressure then. It's so quick then to get a lot more negativity when we've got pay-per-views and it's not a great fight. But yeah, for me, he's just not being active enough. He's not done enough, not being with good enough opponents. So I just don't see what you can do, really.
All right. Look, my thing with Andre and Calix actually gone over it before, but fight after fight, the guy was like an 1,100 to 1 favorite, 2,200 to 1 favorite. Like, I'm a firm believer that in the sport, steel sharpens steel, right? I'm a firm believer in that. So if you're not fighting top opposition, how the hell do you think you're going to get in the ring with a dude like Canelo and think Canelo's sweating you for some reason? That's never made sense to me, right? There's a reason why when Lara got on the podium and called out Canelo told his management, make that fucking fight happen. But when Andrade, he didn't care. He was wondering, who is this dude and why does he think there's just a jump in the front of the line and for me to fight him for? And Andrade has a lot of fans out here that have always been, pleading for him and always running interference for him. And oh, no, it's not his fault. All these top guys, okay, maybe not the top guys, right? But when there's a tough fight where he would have still been a favorite, but not an 1,100 to 1 favorite, maybe a 3 to 1 favorite, right? Over a Zach Parker, he didn't think that, you know what, maybe that's too risky. I don't want to risk it against this guy, right? There's something about him that I've ever since the Matarosian fight, which I could go back to that fight, that's his toughest fight ever. And Matarosian is Matarosian. I'm just putting that out there, right? So that's a dude that Golovkin can stop with no problem. So I see David Benavidez putting a beat down. I think the gas tank is too much. The pressure is going to be too much, right? Shout out to Boxing Bruce Goss, Boxing Jazz, and more. 41 months as a member. I appreciate it, brother. Shout out to you. I don't think Andrade's going to take the pressure, man. I just don't. Pressure bust pipes. And I don't see him getting out of the 7th round. I don't. Inside 7 rounds, David Benavidez should stop this guy. And if he doesn't stop him, it's just going to be a beatdown. Get from there on out. And we may never see Andrade after this. I think this is a swan song. I think he'll take the paycheck and go home because I don't see what else he's going to do, quite frankly. Good luck seeing a Canelo fight. He's going to have to win this fight. He needs to win this fight, okay, which could open new doors for him, or at the very least, do what Conceição did against Navarrete and put on a great fight in a losing effort, okay, in order for me to want to see that dude again. What was that, Joe?
Maybe I know a lot of people hate when I do this because I try to play like sports psychologist, but something else is kind of like standing out to me during the buildup of this fight. Demetrius Andrade just looks too happy, bro. It's me again. It's me again. It's me again. Yeah, we're gonna have a great fight. Like, dude, you're fighting somebody. You're acting like you're going to a birthday party, bro. It's like, I don't know. He's just too happy. Like, he's happy to be here. Like, I'm finally getting my big payday. And I don't know, man. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. He just doesn't look dialed in to me. David's like, he looks dialed in, man. He's respected. Like, even though he's being respectful, like, he's just still focused, dialed in, direct to the point. This is what I'm gonna do. Blah blah blah. He's not like happy. Like, this guy's like happy. He's like freaking ecstatic, and he's just like I don't know. He's just like overzealous and stuff. Like, it's just very odd behavior the way he's acting.
Benavidez even looks confused by it, right? Because he said at the presser, he said, I don't even know what he said. He doesn't even know how to he doesn't even know how to respond to some of the trash talk. He called him. Somebody told me earlier he called him the bad guy from Shrek 1. Like,
I don't remember.
Lord
Shrek.
something. Yeah, the Shrek
Farquaad.
1. Lord
Farquaad.
I don't understand where that comes from. Why is he calling him Lord Farquaad? Why is he calling him that? I don't get it.
He's just not good at
it. I just haven't. Boo Andrade hasn't been in the big fights for people to be focused in on him like that before. So I just wonder if he's just one of those quirky guys. If this is just him, and the world is just seeing it.
Maybe it's like Camboza's the art of deception.
It's funny. The day I interviewed him, he's very he was kind of like seemed like he was pissed off. He was upset. You know what I mean? Maybe he didn't like the questions I was asking him. I don't know, but he wasn't like, hey, it's me again. Hey.
You know what? Like, when he did that interview, I didn't like that answer he gave about why he didn't fight Jermell. I didn't like the answer.
You know what?
Because you can't complain that no one wants to fight you and then brag about how I turned down that fight, because it made no sense to make that fight back then.
Yeah.
That's just me. I think I cut you off there. What were you going to say?
No, then I asked him if he would go to Japan to fight. Who's the guy that Golovkin fought? I always forget his
Murata.
name. Murata. Yeah, would you go to Japan to fight Murata? He goes, why should I have to go to Japan? Why can't they come in Providence and fight in the Dunkin' Donuts Center? 6,000 people. And I'm just sitting there saying, don't
like
say
you can't say stuff like that.
Don't
like,
say what you want to say back to him. Don't do it. Just let him.
You can't say stuff like that and then complain that nobody wants to fight you. Like, you know what I mean? You just can't do that. Like, it is what it is. And before this fight got made, I'm surprised it got made, because like he was talking about $9 million to fight Benavidez or something. I mean, some crazy number. Like, I don't know where he gets these numbers.
I asked him about Benavidez. All he kept telling me was he repeated it 3 times. Money's got to be right. Money's got to be right. Money's got to be right. That's all he said. So he knows.
Now,
he knows that.
All this might have been worth it, though. Because let me tell you something. If he goes out there and puts on a boxing clinic and boxes Benavidez, okay, everyone's going to be eating their words. All right, Sasha's going to wake up and spit out her coffee when she reads it on Twitter, right? And then, like, be ready. It's going to be Andrade versus Canelo. Like, that's what it's going to be.
Well, there's a one-way rematch clause, though, from what I understand. Benavidez will get a rematch.
You're actually right about that. There is a one-way rematch clause. But and also the one thing Caleb Plant had that Andrade doesn't have, it's going to be a 20-by-20 ring. Like, Caleb actually got a bigger ring for that fight. That's not going to happen this time. So very important, right? So just to put that out there, and I think that's going to matter. Now, with that said, I want to ask the panel here. David Benavidez beats Andrade. Let's give my opinion, flat out. It's time. Canelo needs to fight the Mexican monster. He needs to fight David Benavidez. It's time to make the fight. I don't want to wait no more. I don't want to see Benavidez go through a gauntlet like it's Dickstown and fight 4 or 5 more dudes to get to Canelo. Like, let's just do the fight. I don't want to hear who's he fought. He has a weak resume. He has, like, who else is there? Like, you know what I mean? It's David Benavidez. He's the number 2 guy in the division. Time to get it on. Calix, do you agree with that sentiment? If he wins this fight, it's time to do the Canelo fight next year.
Yeah, I think you and I have been in agreement that we're there already. but another fight adds more intrigue to it. It would be nice if he gets a knockout in this fight. What I don't want to see, like I said, is a stinker of a fight and nobody's stock rises. I would love to get more intrigue behind the fight. It'd be great. But I stand by what I said, been saying for a while. I think he's on the back end of this 3-in deal. I think we're getting in September. But I'd love to see it in May. Let's do it. Okay. Let's get right to it. Yeah, May. Let's do it. There's no reason not to, but I'm hearing Maul say that he's possibly fighting Canelo in May. So hopefully not. Hopefully we get right to it. Right?
Maul has other issues, but that's another story. Sasha, the winner of this fight, should they get Canelo next, in your opinion?
I mean, in theory, yes, but it just never works like that, does it? I'd quite like to see him maybe do like a bit of a fight to bridge the gap, you know, potentially someone like John Ryder. See how he handles himself against John Ryder before, because it's a big jump, isn't it? When you're talking about Canelo. I would like, personally, I know you've said about resumes and stuff, but for me, I just think you need to prove yourself a little bit more before you're going in too deep, I think. So, yeah, I'd like to see maybe one or two fights prior to that.
Okay, all right. Jeff, are you in line with that? More fight, or are you ready to see it after this one?
Sasha's perspective is a breath of fresh air. My goodness, because that is a time bomb in American boxing culture to say something like that. It's such a divisive topic with Canelo. I'm for it. I think him and Benavidez should fight. If it doesn't happen, I don't know. We never got Keith versus Floyd or Floyd versus who was the guy across the pond? The strong dude. They got his ice socket. Kell Brook. Like, I would have loved those fights. Didn't happen. I wasn't mad about it. Like, I'm like indifferent, but what other path is there for Canelo other than Benavidez? What other fight is even remotely intriguing at 168 pounds other than David Benavidez? So, yeah, can we get that fight already? If anything, just to shut everyone the hell up. Like, I just get it over with. Let's see what happens. That's it.
Beeb, Andrade did the interview saying, I sparred Bibble before I believe I could beat him. Would you rather see that fight or Canelo fight?
Benavidez Canelo is going to happen in May. Done deal.
Oh wow! Okay, damn. They called you, told you one.
99.9% sure that fight's happening.
Damn. Okay. Well,
Beeb's going out there, and I went out there too. I said if Canelo Benavidez doesn't happen in 2024, if Benavidez wins this fight and everything aligns with the network, whatever they got to do with that. If they don't fight in 2024, I will shut my channel down. That's how certain I am that fight's happen. I don't know if it's going to be May or September, but it's going to happen.
It's going to happen in May. Suleiman's
your ATP contract doesn't let you shut down the...
I'll still come here, guest appearance. I just said I'll shut my channel down.
Call yourself Mr. Rex.
There you go. Let's go ahead and keep it moving here. Look, there's a lot of fights. We don't have time to cover all of them, but we're going to kind of like, what are one or two fights on any of the cards on Saturday that you are personally looking forward to, and why? Sasha, to start with you.
I'll head to the DAZN card. I'm gonna say the other female fight only because the actual DAZN card I'm not that impressed with. I think it's a bit garbage, but I think we could have an upset with Sky Nicholson and Lucy Wildheart. See, Sky's putting a lot of pressure on herself, calling out Amanda Serrano, which, I mean, that's a big jump from who she's fought so far. She's defending her interim title against Lucy Wildheart, who's been in with Michaela Mayer, Estelle Mosley. I think there could be an upset, which brings some excitement to the card on top of the main event. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I think that'll be a good one. Potentially, aside from the main event, probably get fight of the night as well, because I think the rest are a bit lopsided, the fights on that card.
All right. Okay. Joe, what fights are you looking forward to, brother?
I love the David Benavidez fight, but I'm going to be honest with you. I do think this Katie Taylor, Chantelle Cameron fight, I think it's going to be the most competitive and entertaining fight of the weekend. I just think they match up very well together. It almost reminds me of like when Pacquiao and Marcus used to fight, how those fights were always a can't miss. They were always close. They were always competitive. I just think these two young ladies could fight 10 times and they would put on a great show for the fans each and every time. So I believe that's going to be the most entertaining fight, at least from my vantage point, my opinion, of the weekend. I don't want to take too much away from Demetrius Andrade. I know I've been hard on him. A lot of people have been hard on him. I just don't see that fight being competitive at all. I just don't. And I hope I'm wrong. I love being wrong when I make these statements. I want people to come to me on Sunday when I do the show with Eric, and I want them to say, "Hey, I thought you said it was going to be competitive." Guilty, but I'm glad I was wrong. Kill me if you want, but if me being wrong means that we're going to get a great fight, then do it all day. I don't.
So what about the undercards? Like what undercard fight are you looking forward to on any of the cards?
I'll tell you another fight that's very intriguing, and we talked about this. Jermell Charlo does not look right to me. He looks all spaced out, weird. I think Jose Benavidez is live. I think he's really live in that fight. I think he can pull it. I may put a little.
Sounds crazy, but you're probably right.
No, I think he can, because Jose Benavidez is a pretty good inside fighter. Jermell is not a good inside fighter. It just looks really off to me, really off.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one.
You think he's on like antidepressants or something?
I mean, I don't want to get sued, but I do. He has that look like he is on antidepressants.
Allegedly.
I don't want to get sued, but I've seen people that are on. And again, this is no knock on people who are on antidepressants. But what happens sometimes is when you first go on them, the person goes on them, and they have to kind of measure the dosage right. A lot of times, the side effect of it is you're spacey, right? So he's just get used to the dose because his eyes look all glassy. He's all spacey. He's like, come on, man. This guy can't beat me. They swaying back and forth in the chair. He just
I thought you would have get sued. But
I mean, there's a lawsuit pending, but I got the legal team on the back burner.
Oh man! For those that don't know, Jermell is about to hit his 900th day of inactivity, and he is still the middleweight champion. Mauricio refuses to strip him. Unbelievable! I can't believe it. It's crazy. Calix, undercard fight that you're looking forward to, brother.
All right, I'm gonna name two that nobody named. First of all, how dare you guys not name the long-awaited rematch of Robert Guerrero and Andre Berto? That's how the press release was sent out anyway, is Andre Berto is fighting Robert Guerrero, unless that fight was canceled and I didn't know about it. But a couple weeks ago, the announcement was this is on the undercard. I think it's on the non-televised undercard. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to find a way to watch it. And the other fight that I love this matchup here is Matias versus Ergashev.
Oh, yeah.
Love that. That is going to be a brutal war. And I'll tell you this. I'm putting a little bit money down on Ergashev stoppage plus 630 because just a little bit of money that I'm willing to lose. That's great odds for a firefight like that, and he is live. And I agree with Beeb on this too, is I'm not really intrigued by Mal Charlo or Jose Benavidez Jr., but there's something about them two together right now that tells me, like, if you watch Benavidez Jr., even in the fight against Danny Garcia, he was throwing some trades in there, and there were points in that fight where it's like, oh, okay. He's the type of dude that will jump on, I believe, he will jump on early in this fight. He will jump on his opponent and try to see what Jermell Charlo has after 900 days of inactivity, right? So that's what I'm looking forward to, too. So there could be some surprises on Saturday night. There could be.
All right. Jeff, fight or fights that you're looking forward to?
Oh, I'm all about that Subriel Matias and Jahan Ergashev, whatever. That fight is going to be so awesome. I could see why Calix wants to put a little bit of dinero on Ergashev because he's good on that back foot. And, Matias likes to press forward. It's fascinating, the opposing skill sets, but they both are just vicious punchers. Both of them equally. And I really like that Ergashev is training with Sugar Hill because, he's got that straight left coming in. Matias is not one for moving his head. Matias is one for just getting in your face and slugging it out. Heaven or hell, whoever wins first. So It's fascinating, that matchup. I feel like Ergashev is a lot more disciplined in his approach, but that disciplined approach, that kind of goes out the window when you're fighting someone like Matias, because Matias is just a straight savage. And what is it, four no masas in a row? Like, who gets 4 no masas in a row? That's crazy, But I mean, rest in peace and much respect to Maxim Dadashev. That kind of reputation carries it with you when you see in interviews with Subriel and Matias. That dude is a mercenary. He's just like, I'll kill you. I'm going to hurt you in the ring. And he means it so sincerely. You're like, dude, you are a psycho. But, hey, this is the hurt business. And personalities like that can thrive if you put them in the right environments inside that ring to hurt another person. So that fight is definitely, I think that's the crown jewel of the whole card, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I agree that is the fight I'm looking forward to as far as the undercards go, for sure. Although I'm not going to lie, the Jermell and Jose Benavidez, I didn't think would get my interest, but it has. I think it's a trash talk. Jose's talking a big game. Like, Jose's like, geez, Jose's like that Mighty Mouse guy. He's talking smack, bro. Remember that little dog from Scooby Doo? Like, let me at him. Scrappy. He's like Scrappy Doo over here, bro. He's over here trying to scrap with Jermell. Like, he's talking a lot of smack, bro. Like, did you see him limping over to the other side and be like, "Well, what, homie, what?" Like,
if he jumps on Maul, if he jumps on Maul early, this could be a fight.
Look, he needs to. Because I'll say this. All joking aside, in all his fights, the leg eventually gives out, but it usually takes about 5 rounds or so, right?
They've been doing therapy for that. Don't worry about it.
Well, what I'm going to say is he's got a window of 4 or 5 rounds where he could give Jermell hell and establish control in that fight, right?
The rods were loose before. Now they're nice and firm.
So, man, I don't know, man. It was shot in the leg. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that will ever be the same.
They fixed the rods in his leg, man.
And the swelling I heard that he had during the fight with Crawford was just crazy. So this is that's not going to go anywhere. But
he's not going to be pressed like he was against.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, it's
not going to have to move as much either.
Yeah, it might benefit him to be on the inside, and if Jermell doesn't know what to do, it just is what it is. You know what I mean? But it'll be interesting, and maybe by now he's found a way to adapt to it and know how to fight with it. Who knows? So he sounds confident. I never seen a dude sound so confident, but I just have this feeling like when he is on the inside, Jermell's going to light him up with an uppercut and knock him out. I just have this feeling.
Won't happen.
Like, uppercut, knockout, it's coming.
Don't bet on that.
Jermell might be getting worked, don't get me wrong, but I think that uppercut's coming. I do. All right? And it'll be what it is. But hey, you think Jose is worth putting some change on, babe?
100%. 100%.
I'm thinking about it. Like, I know that. Like, I'm thinking about it, but we'll see.
I would put a little something on him.
Man. All right. Hector Luis Garcia, Lamont Roach, it's okay.
That's another one that could be an upset. Could be.
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually think Hector Luis Garcia is one of the more overvalued title holders. So I think Lamont Roach's game here I think he's 3.5 to 1 underdog. I think he's live.
All right. Should be very, very interesting. I mean, Jose Luis Garcia, he's talking like he didn't just get knocked out in the last fight. You know what I mean? He's over there the way he's talking, and it's interesting, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and close out with this topic here. No longer undisputed since he was stripped, and obviously Tszyu was elevated to WBO World Champion. Jermell Charlo has now vacated his IBF belt. He's no longer IBF champion. Tszyu still out here calling him out. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's just go around here and talk about it. Jeff, what's going to happen with Jermell Charlo, brother? What's going to happen here?
That's a damn good question. I wish you didn't start with me first so we get everyone else's input. It's a fascinating situation. I believe Calix mentioned it earlier. Sometimes you're at the one weight class for way too long and it's no good. Josh Taylor, who else was another example? Errol Spence, of course. And, the idea of of Jermell Charlo fighting, God, who was the mandatory he was supposed to fight? The Russian name. Bikram Murtazayev, that's not too appealing. You know, who were the other ones? I guess Israel Madrimov and I guess Charles Conwell possibly. You know, so I think, you know, he moved up to 168, showed that he not too...
Man. So he'll get his wish and he'll go after you guys. Joe Beeb, talk to us. What's good? Shout out to Frozen Jeff.
I mean, is Jeff back?
I think so.
He's still frozen.
Like he came back and then he like.
I told you after Jermell Charlo, fought Canelo Alvarez.
Man,
this
in
guy's
my opinion, I don't think you want. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, you froze up, brother.
Oh, and I don't think he wants to. He wants to fight too. You know.
Hey, Jeff, if you could hear me,
why would he want to fight Madrimov?
Just go ahead and you're freezing up, so like maybe exit and come back on. And then come back on. You know what I mean? Go up, Joe.
So
is that better?
After that,
you're still freezing up. Let's see. Say something.
Boo. I don't know. I
think
switched
you're back.
over to the
You're back,
Wi-Fi.
actually.
No, you're back.
You're back.
See if
You're
that
back
works
now.
a little better.
You're back. You're back now. No, now you're frozen again.
Yeah, go ahead and jump out and come back in because you're freezing like a lot. It is what it is.
All right, so let me get back to this now. So Jermell Charlo, I told you after the Canelo fight, he's probably going to go to Disneyland. He's going to go on this hiatus. You're not going to see him for about 2 years. All these belts are going to become vacated, and he may come back in 2 years at middleweight. Or I wouldn't even be surprised if the guy stays out even longer than 2 years. I just don't think, he made a lot of money. There's really no incentive for him to come back. I don't think he wants to fight at junior middleweight anymore. And I don't think, holding on to these titles means anything to him. So I think you won't see him for a long time. And when he does return, he'll come back at middleweight, in my opinion.
Shout out to Lalo Ruiz. I appreciate the support, brother. And all that good stuff. Jeff, I think you're back now.
My bad. I think so.
You're back.
I don't know where I was at. I don't know.
We didn't hear anything. You froze through the whole thing. So
really? So you as far as being at 154 too long, the Josh
Yeah,
Taylor
you said
reference
that.
cut that, and then they froze. Yeah.
Then the two fighters that you said he didn't want to, all the mandatories you said he didn't want to fight.
There's no point, and obviously we have the Roy Jones example. Moving back down usually doesn't work to your advantage, especially after a fight like that. And I don't know, maybe he can fight Alam Kanali at 160. I don't know, but I don't think he has any real desire to fight at 154 anymore. And I just heard the tail end of you say that he's probably going to wait a long time to come back. He got a fat paycheck, and they do have a tendency to, they tend to chill for like 2-3. I've tended to notice a pattern where certain fighters will tend to chill after like 2 or 3 years after they get a good paycheck on some utter buffoonery. But yeah, if he does come back, I think it'll be at 160. And the 154 division looks very interesting, and I think Tszyu has got some interesting potential matchups.
Okay. All right. Calix, what's going to happen with Jermell Charlo?
I think he'll be out of the picture for a little while after that payday. I agree with all of that. I also agree that the mandatories aren't after that payday and after already becoming undisputed. I would agree that these mandatories aren't going to be intriguing to him, right? So he's going to vacate the belts, or they get stripped, and then they'll go into a vacuum, right? And then fighters will pick up vacant belts, and then I think he's looking at it like, all right, let's see how that plays out, and we can always circle back to the belts if I want to fight at 154, right? If Tszyu starts consolidating belts, then we can always go back to that fight and get those belts back, right? But it does highlight how undisputed is not sustainable, right?
I'm telling you that.
Yeah, and Beeb, you're right about that. And D-Style, you have argued this too, is it's hard to put so much stock in it when it's not sustainable. There's so many sanctioning fees behind it. There are mandatories that are not going to be appealing to fighters who have already become undisputed. So it's just not a sustainable process to put as much stock in it as I did. I'll just put myself in this even a year ago, even as recent as a couple months ago. It just becomes more unsustainable by the day. And this once again highlights that process. But I do kind of disagree that, and who knows, right? He might just disappear forever, but I do kind of disagree that his days at 154 are over, because that division is going to heat up. You've got so many names in that division moving into it. Tszyu is becoming Tszyu. Errol and Bud are going to move into that division. Virgil Ortiz, Conor Benn. You've got names just accumulating in that division that some of them are actually vulnerable names that he can fight. So if he is going to stick around, I tend to think he's going to fight again. And if he fights again, I think it's going to be something that has to be worth his while. That 154 would be the play for him.
You think he can still make it comfortably?
I don't know. That's a good question.
He's been in that weight class for 16 years, Calix.
That's the wild card of it. But I have to think that if he still has the choice between 154 and 160, that would be the play. But I could be wrong. It could be his brother moving up to 168, him moving to 160, because we've been saying that for a while, right? That's eventually what they're going to do. Maybe that switch is moving on, and then you'll still have names coming up to middleweight, right? Let's say Mel gets his hand on a middleweight belt. He's now a 2-division champion, and then he'll have maybe an Errol Spence move up and fight him, and he's still got his name, right? So you might be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we may never get this Tszyu fight. It is what it is. He'll probably fight a middleweight, probably Adames, and then the winner becomes WBC champion all of a sudden. It's probably what might happen, but I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. We got to do something about like the process when it comes to these belts.
Yeah,
something has to get done. Like it's getting to a point where like a president of a company, of a sanctioning body, that is, I'm calling it a company, but it's pretty much what they are. It cannot just say, well, we're going to leave him a champion because I support mental health. Like that's not. And I know that's Jermell Charlo, but no president of a sanctioning body should have just the power to do that. Like that shouldn't be allowed. And the question is, what are the checks and balances, right? Who checks the sanctioning bodies when it comes to this stuff? Nobody, right? The only ones that can really check them are the big name fighters, right? Mm-hmm. The ones that they get the 3% from. The Canelo Alvarez's of the world, the Tyson Furies of the world. Like those guys are the ones that could say, yo, I ain't paying your sanction if you continue this bullshit. And they're the ones that could do it, right? Adames needs to say, look, if I'm not going to be the champion, why am I paying 3%? Well, because it's bigger for you and it helps you make more money. Based on what? Is it true that Adames makes more money because he's the interim champion? Like, is that true?
I don't know.
Can that be proved? Like I thought Adames just has a contract with PBC and he gets paid what he gets paid.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think all that dumb shit needs to get resolved. I'm actually glad Jermell got stripped, and I want to go ahead and take this opportunity to say that in the sport of boxing, we're filled with so many whataboutisms and so many. You did it for that guy, so what you could do it for this guy, and people think things are parallel when they're not. The Boots Ennis situation and the Jermell situation there's similarities to it. Like, for example, both of them got elevated, right? For example, but the similarities literally end right there. That's it. That's where similarities end. All right. Here are the differences, and they're clear as day. Tszyu was signed to fight Jermell, all right? He waited 6 months for the Jermell fight. Jermell got injured. Tszyu said, no problem, champ. I'll wait for you. In the meantime, I'll fight Harrison, and that was for the interim belt. He said, I don't want I'm not the champ. The champ is Jermell. I want to fight the champ for the belt. He constantly said that. He chased after the champion, right? Then he took 2 other fights in the process. Their team were misled to think that Jermell was just imminent for them to announce the fight, but they did an okie doke on him, and he went on to fight Canelo. Oh, but I don't blame him for doing that. Fine, no problem. All right. Anyone who doesn't see how that's different to Boots, right? Who did Boots fight? Like, does anybody remember when he became interim champion? Like, who did he beat for the interim belt? I don't remember, to be honest, right? Was it the Villa fight? I don't even know, right? And from my understanding, Crawford called him out on this whole, like, you're ducking me. And he said, we offered you to fight. And you said you were loyal to, or at least your coach said you were loyal to Showtime. Okay, that's why you didn't want to do the fight. Difference. You were never signed to fight Crawford. Crawford just won the belt, and then he was stripped. So I just want to put that out. The differences are clear, in my opinion. Not everything is the same. Not every interim champion that's elevated to champion is the same. They're not all email champions. Like, point blank, period. I just want to go ahead and say that. But so I want to go around the panel here. Jeff, what process, if any, could be implemented, in your opinion, or should be implemented to avoid these situations where guys are holding on to belts too long? Like, would you put 1 year you have to defend a belt? What process would you put in place if you had the power?
That wasn't in the outline you sent to me for this episode. Hold on a second.
It's impromptu, baby.
That's a big brain. That's a big boxing brain question.
I mean,
I would say.
What do you think Jeff's on the board of governors of the WBC for Christ's sake?
I would say King Turkey. I would say
Turkey grade. He's a pharmacist.
I would say Turkey Al Sheikh gets his big homie to loan him a few billion. He buys all of boxing and puts it all under one roof, like the UFC, and one belt per division. Like that's the big dream for me. Like, it's, you know what I mean? And they're all them sanctioning bodies. They're just out for money. Ring belt above all. Screw that. Like, you know, like,
okay.
Like, it. You know why? 100 days and they go strip Terrence Crawford. Like, less than 100 days they strip Joe Cordina, but we just sat there and saw Errol Spence hold on to it for like damn near 5 years. When was that? He fought Ocampo. That was 2018. Like, you know, the answer is abolish the criminal state, abolish the mafia-owned state, and have it all under one roof, one belt per division, and just end the nonsense.
Man. Joe Beeb, it's impromptu, but it is what it is. It's what we do here. We're boxing heads, you know what I mean? Like, we're boxing masters here. What could be done? Like, what if you had the power right now? They gave you the power, and they're like, fix this problem with the sanctioning bodies. What do you do?
Everybody's got to defend. If you win the title, you have a year, 12 months from the day you win the title to defend it. If you don't, you get stripped. Simple as that. When someone does become undisputed, I've always said this, and I talked to you about this before. All the sanctioning bodies should agree upon a number one contender. You shouldn't have to have 4 different number one contenders, right? All the sanctioning bodies should have a meeting together and decide on who the undisputed champion's mandatory is. He should only have to fight one mandatory a year. Shouldn't have to have a separate mandatory for each belt. That is utterly ridiculous. So they have the meeting. They vote on who the best possible opponent for this undisputed champion should be. They have a vote amongst the board of governors, like Mauricio Suman likes to say. And that's what you do. You vote on one guy, one mandatory, not 4 mandatories.
Okay.
I'm going to fill out an application. I want to be part of the board of governors.
Calix, what's up, Calix? If you had the power to wield your power right now, what would you do? Like, what needs to be done here?
It's tough because I wouldn't work for all 4 sanctioning bodies at once. So that's what makes this tough, right? I don't have a problem with 4 sanctioning bodies. The issue becomes, and I talked about this last week, I think, interim belt and recess. Other sports don't have this stuff. Like, what is a belt and recess, interim belt? This is just too much. It's too confusing.
It's out having fun. It's in the playground.
The only way it works to make Undisputed sustainable is going by Beeb's model and the sanctioning bodies getting into one room together and say, we have to limit the amount of sanctioning fees, the percentage when a fighter does become undisputed, because Josh Taylor talked about paying 11% of his purse to sanctioning fees to fight Jack Catterall, and fighters just aren't going to do that. So that, and then the mandatory process is too tough when you get your hands on 4 belts, because who the hell are you going to defend against? You got to do all these defenses, and then it's, once you become undisputed, these fights aren't intriguing. So then you have to get granted exceptions, and it depends on who you are if you get an exception. So it's just way too complex, and that's why we'll never get a handle on it. Let's be honest, fellas. But I do like the rings process, although I don't agree with what they did at 112. I like that they had a 9-person panel and it was split. It shows diversity of opinion. It's transparent. A board of governors, there's no transparency because we don't know who's on this board of governors. There's not actual votes.
We don't even know who they are.
Yeah, so it's way political and too complex. So when you ask me what I would do, I mean, where do we start?
Mauricio Suleiman was probably in the board of governors when he was like 9.
What if Mauricio Suleiman has his wife, his brother-in-law, his cousin, his best friend he went to school with? What if all these people are on the board of governors?
Because you know what's ridiculous about this? It always got me when they announced Canelo as a franchise champion. Like,
I hated that.
It was so stupid, and then he tried to make it sound legit. Like he totally it. He's like, yeah, this is in the rules. We went to Hawaii. We had the votes. It requires a 3/4 votes, and we got the votes. Like, why did you have to go to Hawaii to vote on Canelo becoming franchise champion? Like, the fact that it's Hawaii, that's supposed to impress me. That's supposed
They were just in Uzbekistan too. And by the way, your impression is spot on. But this is what I'd like to see, and I think this is doable. This could actually be done across the board. Is if a fighter does not fight within 12 months, they get stripped of everything, because at that point it's not a sport, right? You have to defend within the year. Every other sport, you have to defend your championship or your trophy, and with no exception. Like, even if there's an injury or whatever, no exception to this. And if there is an injury, you can go back up to number 1 in the rankings when you come back. That's fine. But if you want to do some sort of champion or recess thing, that's fine. But you got to be stripped of the belt if you're not fighting within 12 months. And on top of that, I would love to see the big publications really start to go after inactive fighters by just stop ranking them in your divisional rankings and your pound-for-pound list if they're not fighting within 12 months. Please.
At least fight. You got to at least fight once a year, man. Come on.
At least, come on.
Once a year. That's not too much to ask, is it?
That's not too much to ask, and it just isn't. But look, obviously, a lot of this is a pipe dream. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. It probably is gonna take someone like Turkey. Like you never know, man. Like, don't rule it out. Like, Saudi Arabia may just buy out all the sanctioned bodies. Like, it may just happen. Right? Like they got the money.
I heard a rumor there's going to be a Turkey Al Sheikh belt.
I mean, and who's going to stop him from doing it? You know, like, who?
And the new Turkey Al Sheikh.
Saudi, say what you want about Saudi. They're giving these fighters money. They're giving them money. Oh, yeah. They're not taking their money. They're giving them money.
I got a meeting with Turkey Al Sheikh next week.
I mean, this shit's insane, bro. You know, and then WBA taking forever to get Crawford a belt. Like, what's going on, bro? Like, what? Yeah. All those, have you noticed? Like, all those WBA belts, IBF belts, they all look the same. Like the ones, like the international ones. And
what happened was, it got stuck way in the back of the UPS truck where they were delivering it. And they just couldn't find it, man.
Yeah, it's still back there.
Look, when I first heard about the franchise thing, and they said, oh, we had a vote, and I said, that's bullshit. What type of horseshit is this? But as soon as he said, we did the vote in Hawaii, once he said that, you got it, all right? That's where you do it. You could have done it in a Zoom call, but whatever, okay? With that said, boxing hot man, Jeff. You have like I'm gonna put you on the spot. You want to sing a quick song for us right now,
yeah.
Don't start doing this to people.
Thanksgiving,
like you know what I mean? You got the talent. It is what it is.
I
Christmas.
don't even know what to
Christmas.
sing.
First of all, you hit him with a bonus topic. He wasn't ready for that. Now you're telling him to sing.
Can I make a request?
No New Year's Day to celebrate. No chocolate covered candy hearts to give away. No April springs. No summer moon. Oh, what is the rest of the song?
There it is.
To me, it's just an ordinary day.
And with that,
I just called to say I love you.
Hey, I got a request. I got a request for Feliz Navarrete.
What is this, karaoke right now? What's going on?
Feliz Navarrete.
Feliz Navarrete.
Feliz Navarrete.
Espero año
Feliz
felicidad.
Navarrete.
So with that said, Feliz Navarrete to everybody. That is the round table.
Bells ring, are you listening?
Silent night.
Was that Bing Crosby, right?
Holy night.
You know you're old when you remember Bing Crosby for Christmas. So for those of you who don't know, before Mariah Carey was going around, it was Bing Crosby.
These styles lost. These styles lost control.
This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it
Keep
boxing.
it boxing.
We're out here.
Peace.